Hi, I'm Joe Saunders with Miniature Landscape Hobbies. Today we're going to look at how to weather models with acrylic paint. Today's video is one of those videos I almost didn't make. You see, when it comes to acrylic weathering, you're not talking about anything special. It's a very, very basic technique. Although this isn't to say that it's not used all the time, because it is, but it's usually used in combination with other weathering techniques, such as enamels. So, as a result, you don't see acrylic weathering very often as a real showcase effect on display quality models. But then it occurred to me, not every model is display quality. I'm primarily a wargamer, so I don't produce every model to head-turning standards. I do every once in a while, but most of the time I'm just trying to get the model ready for the board. So, in that instance, acrylic weathering actually becomes really, really important. It also makes a really good foundation for doing more complex techniques over top. In more advanced techniques, such as with enamels, you need harsh thinners and different types of enamel washes that can be expensive and they're pretty smelly. But with acrylic weathering, all you really need are a couple colors of maybe brown and beige paint. You're going to have a hard time getting some of the more subtle effects on your models, such as the tones of rust on this truck. But then again, these sorts of effects aren't always appropriate on your vehicles or equipment, especially if you're doing modern military vehicles, which tend not to rust or are maintained to a very high standard. Additionally, if you're trying to depict something that's shiny and new in the field, you don't really need much more than a couple splashes of mud or dirt. So let's get to it. I'm going to show you how to do this on this BDRM2 by Battlefront. Grab a brown paint, earth brown in this case, but you could use really any dark brown paint, and begin by dry brushing it up and around the fenders and up the side of the vehicle as high as you want. It's also a good idea to get it on the tires. You try to run it in there lightly so it stands on the top of the cleats in particular. It's really about a light controlled amount. You don't want to give the model a full coat or anything. Just get that pigment dusted on there. With the dark brown put on, then all you need to do is switch to a lighter beige color. So in this case, I use Iraqi Sand by Vallejo, and I go about the same technique. I just dry brush it on. I try to keep it a little lower on the model than the brown, so the darker color shows through at the top. But that's really about the only difference. I go around the side and the bottom, and again, I don't want to get it on thick, I just want to create a light dusting of pigment. Now here at the back, I wanted to indicate maybe there are some splashes of dried mud or dust. So here I use a bit more of a stippling motion. You can put this elsewhere on the model if you want to. Just jab straight onto the model. Now that the acrylics are on to imply mud and dust splattered on the sides of the vehicle, I go ahead and renew the highlights. In this case, I put out a little middle stone in my palette, and going back to dry brushing, I just go back over the raised areas on the model again, where some of the effects from the weathering may have toned down the highlights. And I redo it on the top. This isn't always necessary, but with finer scale models, usually you've got to exaggerate the highlights a little more. Now that that's done, I prepare for the final step, which is varnishing. I grab my matte varnish and some airbrush flow improver. And we do this primarily because this is a gaming piece, so it'll be handled, it'll suffer some wear and tear. But the other thing is that the lightly dry brush paints don't always adhere as well as if they're brushed on normally, so we'll use some varnish just to seal them in a little more carefully. Put in the flow improver and I mix it up in the cup. Then I grab the model and I give it the customary 2 coats of matte varnish. And with that, the model's finished, weathered, and ready for the table. Here's the finished product. Notice how the weathering adds a touch of realism to the vehicle. It makes it look like it actually belongs on the battlefield. It's not super detailed, and it probably won't win any awards, but it'll look just fine in a diorama or on the gaming table. In this comparison, we have basically the same vehicle on the right, but without any weathering. Notice how overall it looks less interesting and less realistic. It would look just fine in a game like Team Yankee or Flames of War, but it's such an easy step to add just a little bit of acrylic weathering that you might as well take it a little further and give it that little extra something. That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. Miniature Landscape Hobbies is growing. Please stay tuned for new content twice weekly on Sundays and Thursdays. We are your source for regular model building, miniature painting, and diorama content. If you have not yet subscribed, make sure you do, and press the bell button to receive immediate notification so you don't miss out. Miniature Landscape Hobbies has a Patreon account. There are many interesting rewards for our patrons, so we can help you improve your own hobby skills. The link is in the video description. Thanks for watching, and until next time, remember to keep building life in miniature.